The Rogers Center buzzed with tension on October 31, 2025. The city of Toronto was electric, the air thick with anticipation, as fans from both sides poured into the stadium, their hopes and nerves palpable. This was more than just a baseball game. It was a battle for legacy, for pride, and for the chance to etch their names into history. The Dodgers, down 3-2, faced elimination against the Blue Jays. The pressure was immense, and every player knew what was at stake. The Blue Jays, energized by their home crowd, could almost taste their first championship in decades, while the Dodgers clung to the hope of keeping their season alive. Their dream of back-to-back championships hung by a thread. One more loss, and it was over. The weight of expectations pressed down on the dugout, and the silence between pitches spoke volumes. For the Dodgers, the margin for error had vanished. Every pitch and swing was magnified under the World Series spotlight. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the tension in every wind-up. Each moment felt like it could tip the balance. The stakes had never been higher, and the pressure was relentless. The Dodgers, once favorites, now had to win 2 straight on the road after dropping 2 at home. Their confidence had been shaken, and the journey ahead seemed daunting. The odds were stacked against them, and the path to victory was narrow. The journey to Toronto mirrored their struggles: delayed flights, nagging injuries, and a lineup running on fumes. The team had battled through adversity all season, but now, fatigue and frustration threatened to unravel them at the worst possible moment. Every setback felt heavier, every obstacle more daunting. Shohei Ohtani was exhausted, key bats were cold, and the team looked spent. The stars who had carried them all year now seemed to be running on empty, their faces etched with worry and fatigue. The pressure to perform weighed heavily on every player, especially those who had been counted on to deliver in the clutch. Manager Dave Roberts knew hope wasn't enough. Drastic change was needed. He paced the dugout, searching for answers, conferring with his coaches, and looking for any spark that could reignite his team. The moment demanded boldness, and Roberts was ready to take risks. The offense had stalled, leaving runners stranded and momentum lost. Missed opportunities haunted the Dodgers, as inning after inning slipped away without a breakthrough. The frustration was visible, and the sense of urgency grew with every out. Roberts decided to shake up the lineup, a bold gamble to jolt his team awake. He made tough calls, benching veterans and giving fresh faces a chance, hoping to inject new energy into the clubhouse. The move sent shockwaves through the team, but it was a necessary risk. The Dodgers' fate now rested on this new look, hoping it would spark the performance they desperately needed. The players took the field with renewed focus, determined to prove that their season wasn't over yet. Every eye in the stadium was fixed on them, waiting to see if the gamble would pay off. With everything on the line, it was time to rewrite the story or watch their season end. The tension in the stands was matched only by the intensity on the field. Fans held their breath, knowing that every play could be the difference between heartbreak and glory. The next 9 innings would decide if the Dodgers' dynasty dream survived. As the first pitch was thrown, the world watched, knowing that legends are made in moments like these, and that, for the Dodgers, the fight for their legacy had only just begun. With the Dodgers' season hanging in the balance, manager Dave Roberts knew he couldn't wait any longer. The offense, once a juggernaut that steamrolled through the regular season, had suddenly gone ice cold on the game's biggest stage. In a bold and urgent move, Roberts decided to completely overhaul his batting order, hoping to jolt his team out of its World Series slump and breathe new life into a lineup that had lost its edge. The frustration was palpable. Dodgers hitters, who had been so reliable all year, now found themselves searching for answers. In the batting cage and in the dugout, the tension was thick. Every at-bat felt heavier, every missed opportunity more costly. Roberts was determined to revive a sputtering offense before it was too late. The numbers told the story. The Dodgers' bats, once the league's best, had gone silent in the World Series. Strikeouts piled up, runners were stranded, and the scoreboard rarely showed more than a run or two. The team that had led the league in runs now looked lost at the plate, unable to string together the big innings that had defined their season. Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers' superstar addition, was still finding ways to get on base. But with the lineup struggling around him, he was often left stranded, rarely coming up with runners in scoring position. In 5 games, Ohtani had just 7 plate appearances with men on base, a staggering statistic for a player of his caliber. The Dodgers simply weren't giving their best hitter enough chances to do damage. That's why Roberts and his coaching staff went back to the drawing board. They pored over matchups, analyzed every possible combination, and ultimately crafted a new lineup designed to maximize RBI opportunities. The goal was simple: get more runners on base ahead of Ohtani and put the team's best hitters in positions to succeed. The most dramatic change came at the top. Mookie Betts, the Dodgers' dynamic leadoff man for years, was moved down to the cleanup spot, a role he hadn't filled in a long time. The hope was that Betts' power and clutch hitting would be even more valuable with runners on base, giving the Dodgers a better chance to break through in key moments. Meanwhile, Tommy Edman, finally healthy after battling an ankle injury, returned to center field and the top of the order. His speed and on-base skills were sorely missed, and Roberts was counting on Edman to set the table and ignite the offense from the very first pitch. At the bottom of the lineup, Miguel Rojas got a surprise start at second base. Known for his energy and ability to make contact, Rojas brought a spark that the Dodgers desperately needed. His presence was meant to keep the line moving and provide a jolt of enthusiasm to a team searching for answers. Of course, every move came with its own risks. Betts was under pressure to deliver in an unfamiliar spot. Edman's ankle was still a concern, and Rojas hadn't started in weeks. The Dodgers were gambling on talent, health, and a little bit of luck to turn things around. But with the season on the line, Roberts had no choice but to trust his roster's depth and resilience. He gathered his players, reminded them of what they'd accomplished all year, and challenged them to rise to the moment. The Dodgers needed a spark, and this shakeup was their last shot at finding it. The clubhouse was tense but determined, every player knowing what was at stake. It was all or nothing now. The new lineup was set, the stage was massive, and the Dodgers were ready to find out if this desperate shakeup could finally deliver the breakthrough they so desperately needed. The headline move, Mookie Betts to clean up, was a clear call for leadership. It wasn't just a tactical shift, it was a statement from the Dodgers manager Dave Roberts that the team needed their superstar to step up in the biggest moment of the season. Moving Betts to the heart of the order was about more than numbers. It was about trust, belief, and the hope that a spark could ignite when the pressure was highest. Betts, mired in a World Series slump, hadn't batted fourth since 2017. The numbers told a tough story. His bat had gone quiet at the worst possible time. For a player used to leading off, the adjustment was as much mental as physical. The weight of expectations grew heavier with every at-bat, every missed opportunity, and every glance at the scoreboard. Roberts needed him to drive in runs, not just set the table. The Dodgers' offense needed a jolt, and Betts was the one they believed could provide it. The cleanup spot is reserved for the team's most reliable hitter, the one who can change a game with a single swing. It was a challenge, but also an opportunity for Betts to redefine his postseason legacy. Betts owned his struggles, but accountability wasn't enough. Results were needed. In interviews, he didn't shy away from the truth. He knew he had to be better. But words only go so far in October. The Dodgers needed action, and Betts was determined to deliver, channeling his frustration into focus and resolve. Surrounded by Ohtani, Smith, and Freeman, Betts' new job was simple: deliver in the clutch. With a lineup stacked with stars, the pressure to perform was immense, but so was the support. Each at-bat was a chance to turn the tide, to remind everyone why Betts is considered one of the game's elite. The hope was that a new role would reset his mindset and spark his bat. Sometimes, a change in perspective is all it takes to break out of a slump. The Dodgers believed that moving Betts to cleanup could unlock the confidence and aggression that made him an MVP. The pressure was immense, but so was the opportunity. Every pitch, every swing, every moment was magnified under the bright lights of the World Series. Betts knew the stakes. His performance could define not just the game, but the entire season. Betts had carried the Dodgers before. Now, they needed him more than ever. Memories of his past heroics fueled hope, both in the dugout and among the fans. The team looked to him for inspiration, for that one big moment that could change everything. The team's season hinged on whether their superstar could rise to the moment. Every eye in the stadium was fixed on Betts, waiting to see if he could deliver when it mattered most. The margin for error was razor thin, and the stakes couldn't be higher. It was time for Betts to clean up and keep the Dodgers' hopes alive. The stage was set, the challenge clear. Now it was up to Mookie Betts to answer the call and lead his team forward. Tommy Edman's return to center field was a defensive gamble the Dodgers had to take. His ankle injury had kept him at second, but his range in the outfield was sorely missed. Edman's toughness and versatility made him invaluable, and his brief stint in center during Game 3 proved he was ready. The move allowed Hernandez to shift to left and opened second base for Rojas. With a vast Rogers center outfield, Edman's speed could save crucial runs. The Dodgers needed every defensive edge in an elimination game. For Edman, it was a chance to make his biggest impact yet. His glove could be the difference between victory and defeat. The Dodgers were all in, trusting Edman to anchor the outfield when it mattered most. Miguel Rojas, the surprise starter at second, brought energy and experience to the ninth spot. He hadn't started since the NLDS, but Roberts valued his professionalism and knack for getting on base. Rojas's job: turn the lineup over for Ohtani, Smith, and Freeman. His steady glove filled the gap left by Edman's move to center. Rojas wasn't expected to be a hero, just a tough out and a spark plug. Sometimes, a fresh perspective is all a team needs. If Rojas could get on base, he'd have done his job. Every lineup change centered on one goal: maximizing Shohei Ohtani's impact. Ohtani was getting on base, but rarely with runners ahead, an offensive waste the Dodgers couldn't afford. By stacking Smith and Freeman behind him, Roberts aimed to create constant pressure. Rojas at ninth meant Ohtani could bat with runners on more often. Betts in cleanup was the final piece, ready to cash in. The Dodgers wanted relentless traffic on the bases, forcing the Blue Jays pitchers to work. Ohtani's consistency was their anchor, but now he needed to be a run scorer, not just a table setter. The hope: more RBI chances, more runs, and a revived offense. The Dodgers' season depended on letting Ohtani, and the new lineup, change the game. Across the diamond, the Blue Jays brimmed with confidence, one win from a title. Their pitching had stifled the Dodgers, and their offense delivered in the clutch. Kevin Gausman, their ace, was ready to challenge the Dodgers' new lineup. The Rogers Center crowd was electric, hungry for a championship. George Springer's return added another threat atop the order. The Blue Jays' lineup was deep, versatile, and unshaken by the Dodgers' changes. Toronto had momentum, home field advantage, and belief. The Dodgers faced not just a team, but a city desperate for history. To win, LA had to silence the crowd and outplay a team that believed destiny was on their side. The Dodgers carried more than elimination pressure. They carried the weight of history. As defending champs, anything less than a title was failure. No team had repeated in 25 years. The quest for a dynasty raised the stakes. The Blue Jays, meanwhile, chased their first title since 1993. The Dodgers stars felt the strain. Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, all expected to deliver. Roberts' lineup changes were as much about mindset as strategy, hoping to break the tension. This was a test of championship DNA. Could the Dodgers rise when it mattered most? Great teams find a way. The Dodgers had to prove they still belonged among them. Their response would define their season and their legacy. As Gausman's first pitch crossed the plate, the Dodgers' season was on the line. Roberts' bold changes were a last stand, trusting new roles, betting on character. Would Betts break out? Would Edman's defense save a run? Could Rojas spark a rally? The Blue Jays, fueled by a city's hope, stood ready to end the Dodgers' reign. Every inning was a battle, every mistake magnified. The Dodgers needed Yamamoto's best and immediate offense to survive. This was more than a game. It was a fight for a dynasty's life. The gamble was made. Now, only the game would decide if the Dodgers lived to see Game 7.